You found your way to Whispers of Crimes, a quiet corner where the shadows of the past are gently told. Here, we speak of real crimes and mysteries, not to shock or scare, but to wonder, to reflect, and maybe to help you fall asleep. So close your eyes, let your thoughts slow down, and come with me into tonight's case. March 8th, 2014. A routine flight. A plane disappears without a trace. No distress signal. No warning. Just silence. Where did it go? Why has it never been found? What really happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370? The world's most expensive search. Theories that will send chills down your spine. The mystery that no one can solve yet. Flight MH370 is still missing, and the truth still out there. Chapter 1. A flight like any other. In the still darkness of March 8th, 2014, Kuala Lumpur International Airport thrummed with its usual quiet activity. At Gate G9, passengers began boarding Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, a red-eye journey scheduled to depart at 12:41 am local time. The flight, bound for Beijing, China, was expected to be a routine 5.5-hour trip across the South China Sea. On board were 227 passengers from 14 countries, most of them Chinese nationals, and 12 Malaysian crew members. The aircraft was a Boeing 777-200R, one of the most dependable commercial jets in the world. It had flown over 50,000 hours since its first flight in 2002 and had no known mechanical issues. In the cockpit sat Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a respected 53-year-old with over 18,000 flight hours and nearly 3 decades of experience. With him was First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, 27, an enthusiastic and capable co-pilot in the final stages of his certification. Everything appeared normal. The weather was calm. The plane took off without delay, climbing to a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. At 1:01, MH370 checked in with Malaysian Air Traffic Control and reported cruising steadily. Then, at 1:19 am, the final words were transmitted from the cockpit. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Seconds later, the aircraft left Malaysian airspace and was expected to check in with controllers in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. It never did. Chapter 2. An invisible disappearance. When MH370 failed to make contact with Vietnamese controllers, it was not immediately treated as an emergency. In aviation, missed check-ins happen, especially in busy airspace. But minutes turned to hours, and as the silence continued, concern began to grow. By 2:40 am, contacted Malaysia to confirm they hadn't heard from the aircraft. Air traffic controllers on both sides began scrambling, attempting radio contact, rerouting other aircraft to try and visually locate MH370 and alerting their respective militaries. But there was nothing, no transponder signal, no radar contact, no distress call. It wasn't until 6:30 am a formal search and rescue effort was activated, and at 7:24 am, Malaysia Airlines publicly announced that Flight MH370 was officially missing. Initial searches focused on the South China Sea, near the last known radar point. Aircraft and naval vessels from multiple countries scoured the region. But by day 2, a startling development emerged. The Malaysian military's primary radar had picked up a plane possibly MH370 making an abrupt U-turn back over the Malay Peninsula. The aircraft then continued westward, flying across the Strait of Malacca and into the Andaman Sea, all without broadcasting a single signal. Whoever was in control had deliberately turned off the plane's transponder and communication systems. MH370 had not crashed in the South China Sea. It had vanished intentionally and methodically. Chapter 3. The Digital Ghost of MH370. With no radio communications, no mayday, and no crash site, investigators were desperate for any clue. That's when British satellite company Inmarsat came forward with something unexpected. Routine satellite pings from MH370's onboard systems. These handshakes were hourly automatic signals exchanged between the aircraft and Inmarsat's satellite network. While they didn't contain GPS data, they did confirm that MH370 was still airborne for nearly 7 more hours after it vanished from radar. The final handshake occurred at 8:19 am, nearly 7 hours after takeoff. Using Doppler shift analysis, Inmarsat determined that MH370's path ended somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean, far southwest of Australia, in one of the most remote and hostile stretches of water on the planet. This revelation shifted the entire focus of the search. In March 2014, Australia took over as lead search coordinator. Naval ships, aircraft, and later, deep-sea drones began scouring thousands of square kilometers of ocean west of Perth, but the area was vast, the terrain rugged, and the ocean floor largely unmapped. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the lack of answers grew unbearable. The families of the 239 souls on board watched helplessly as search grids expanded and theories multiplied, but still no wreckage, no black boxes, no clue as to why this had happened. Chapter 4. Captain Zahari and the Deepening Shadows. With no definitive evidence, the mystery surrounding Flight MH370 began to pull focus onto the people involved, particularly Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. Media reports dug into his background, his political views, and even his mental health. Was he depressed? Disillusioned? Could this have been an elaborate pilot suicide? A shocking detail emerged during the investigation. Zahari had a full-sized flight simulator at home. Forensic analysis revealed that in the weeks before the disappearance, he had run simulations similar to MH370's final suspected flight path southward into the Indian Ocean. Authorities cautioned that the simulation data alone was not conclusive. There was no note, no warning, no history of instability. Zahari was respected, trusted, and admired. But the evidence left investigators with haunting possibilities. Only someone with extensive knowledge of aircraft systems could have disabled the communications and navigated the Boeing 777 so precisely off-grid. Was Zahari acting alone? Was someone else in the cockpit with him? Had there been a hijacking? Or could a catastrophic systems failure have somehow gone undetected? In the absence of a wreckage site or cockpit recordings, the investigation stalled. Every possibility remained open except certainty. Chapter 5. Traces on the Shoreline Hope reignited in July 2015, more than a year after the plane's disappearance. On the shores of Reunion Island, east of Madagascar, a local man discovered a barnacle-covered aircraft flaperon. French authorities quickly confirmed it was from MH370. It was the first physical evidence of the plane's fate. In the months that followed, more fragments washed ashore on beaches in Mozambique, Tanzania, Madagascar, and South Africa. These included parts of the wings, interior cabin panels, and even a piece believed to be from the stabilizer. Experts examined the barnacle growth patterns and damage. The flaperon's condition suggested it had been torn from the aircraft during a high-speed impact with the water. Other pieces showed signs of prolonged ocean drift, confirming the aircraft had indeed ended its flight in the Indian Ocean. But while these fragments narrowed the possibilities, they didn't answer the most important question: why did MH370 go there in the first place? The vast majority of the aircraft, including the black boxes, remained missing somewhere on the ocean floor. Chapter 6. A final report without closure in July 2018. After 4 years of searching and over $150 million spent, Malaysia's official safety investigation team released its final report. The conclusion was devastatingly inconclusive. Yes, the aircraft's deviation from its flight path was deliberate. Yes, its communication systems were likely manually disabled. But no, the report did not identify any person or motive responsible. The language was careful. Investigators stated they could not definitively rule out the possibility that someone on board, likely in the cockpit, had commandeered the plane. But they stopped short of assigning blame to Zahari or Farik. There was no conclusive evidence of foul play, no terrorist involvement, no system-wide failure that could explain the silence. The Australian-led search had officially ended in 2017, after scanning over 120,000 square kilometers of ocean floor. A private effort by US firm Ocean Infinity resumed the search in 2018 with advanced underwater drones, but it too came up empty. The world had learned more about ocean currents, underwater terrain, and satellite tracking than ever before. But the fate of MH370 remained a void. It was the ultimate paradox. We had more technology than ever, yet we had lost a plane. Chapter 7. The Unquiet Ocean. More than a decade has passed since Flight MH370 vanished from the skies, but the story remains unresolved, a scar on modern aviation. For the families, the grief has never ended. Some continue to meet each year on the anniversary, demanding renewed efforts and fresh inquiries. Aviation experts continue to debate theories. Was the plane hijacked? Was the cockpit depressurized, rendering everyone unconscious in a ghost flight to the south? Or was it a cold, calculated act by someone who knew how to make an aircraft disappear? In its aftermath, the tragedy of MH370 led to major reforms. Aircraft must now report their positions more frequently. New satellite systems aim to provide real-time global tracking. But these are preventative measures. What MH370 demands is answers. And so the Indian Ocean remains both a graveyard and a vault. Somewhere beneath its waves, perhaps 4,000 meters deep, lies the truth, the cockpit voice recorder, the black box, and the final moments of 239 lives. Until they are found, Flight MH370 will remain one of history's most enduring mysteries. A silent shadow that reminds us, in the age of constant connection, how easy it is for someone to simply vanish. That's all for tonight's story. Another thread in the web of true crime, quietly unraveling as the night goes on. If you're still with me, thanks for listening. And if sleep has already taken you, may your dreams be peaceful and your mind at ease. I'll be here next time by the fire with another story waiting to be told. Good night, and don't forget to lock your doors.